How you doing, Rowena?
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah. Can you hear me?
I hear you perfectly. Tell me when you want to start.
Oh, where do I start? Where do I start? Well, first of all, thank you very much for your time today. I really appreciate you being available. Now, I've been talking about the NanoV in my stories on my social media, and so many people question like, yeah, but what is this device? We need a bit more of an explanation. So, with you, excuse me, with you being are you the CEO or the vice president or the
No, I'm one of the two key people here,
okay, okay.
and
With
I'm
you
not
being
I'm not the science person. I'm not the technical person, so that's probably a good thing because my story is much more understandable than my partner's.
okay, okay. So could you give us an insight into the Nano V and what it is and what it does exactly?
Sure, sure. So first of all, it was developed by Han Zhang, my partner.
Hmm.
And what it is just a small device where you inhale humidified air that comes from the device. And the secret is what's taking place and how that humidity is treated. And inside the device, the water droplets are adjusted to a more excited or more ordered form. The state is changed. And that's actually the same state that's needed by your cells in order for them to function correctly. We can get into that later. The body does it naturally to create this ordered water. And so what the NanoV device does is it creates it inside the device and augments the body by delivering the humidity through inhalation.
Right. Okay. Cool. And what happens when you inhale it? What happens with the whole protein process? So what I understand that protein it unfolds or something.
Yeah,
So what
yeah.
what is happening there, and where does the Nano V intervene?
Yeah, so now we get to the body, and that's the complicated part. And it's true that a lot of what's going on in the body isn't even understood yet in science. There's just it's so complicated and so interesting. There are so many proteins. They estimate about 1 million. They only know about 30,000 of them, so they haven't even been identified. And the proteins are not the same as the proteins you eat, but related in that when you eat protein, you're eating amino acids and you want the right food to come into the system. Inside the body, the proteins are made up of amino acids. And though they create a long chain of amino acids, and that chain has to fold into the correct shape in order for the protein to function. Now, why that's important is the proteins are almost everything. That's your structure. The muscles are largely collagen proteins or contractile proteins. Most of your body's mostly made up of proteins. There's some minerals and things in there too, of course. And then they are also doing everything that you do. So when you just blinked your eyes, that's a protein activity. They store things, they transport things, they signal in order for you to respond to your environment, whether it's hot or cold or whatever. And so all the work in the body is done by the proteins. All of it. They're called the workhorse of the cell. So you want them working well. And in order to work, they have to fold into these complicated three-dimensional structures correctly so that they can actually do the job they need to do. And that's where the NanoV comes in, is it supports that process of protein folding. And that's all it does.
Mm.
After that, the body does all the amazing things it does.
Mm.
And so it's a very fundamental influence on the body.
What creates the actual unfolding in the first place?
Largely that's damage. And we always hear of free radicals, right? And we take antioxidants to interrupt them, and that's a good thing. But a lot of times the antioxidant doesn't get there in time. And so the free radical damages a cell component, which could be the DNA, RNA, anything in the cell. But most likely it's the proteins, because there's more of they're all over the place in there. You know, a typical cell might have 10,000 proteins, is just an estimate, but they don't really know that, you know. And so it's really packed in there with these proteins. They're easily damaged by free radicals or reactive oxygen species. And once they're damaged, they need to be corrected. Other proteins correct them, which is, if you think about that, that's pretty important, because if the proteins that are meant to fix things are themselves damaged, that's not good. You end up with a downward spiral, right? And so that's where a lot of the damage is oxidative damage. It's free radicals, oxidative stress, and that we can't avoid that because we burn oxygen for fuel. And in order to do that, you have to have oxidative damage is just going to be a result of it.
Wow. So this is any type of free radicals, like free radicals from what, from foods that we eat, from the environment, from any kind of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. That oxidative stress damage, free radicals, is hugely impacted by radiation, what we eat, what we put on our skin, and what we're exposed to. Those are all ways to reduce that damage, which are a really smart thing to do. And then, yeah.
So I'm just thinking about, you mentioned radiation. That's quite an interesting one. That's a real interesting one because, you know, we are at constant attack from EMF and radiation. And it's now apparent that, you know, 5G is rolling out to add to our living microwave. Like, where does this help? Like, okay, so, you know, this causes an obvious strain to our DNA, which can, you know, cause mutations and lead to diseases. Where can the NanoV help here? Like, what's going on?
Well, the DNA damage specifically, and it's interesting, that one's been studied, that NanoV will reduce the double strand DNA breaks, which is the worst kind of damage because when both strands are broken, it's hard to fix. But that fixing the DNA it's a protein function. And so it's becoming harder and harder to avoid damage, as you pointed out. And also the sun alone is a factor. And you can see that in people that, you know, if one person is not in the sun and one is their whole life, their skin's different, you know. There is a damaging component. The sun's kind of got that good and bad thing that seems to happen all the time in biology. Yeah. And so you want sun, but not too much, because people really do, you can get damaged in lots of natural ways. And then on top of that, we've just piled on unnatural ways to get more damage, it seems. So, and some things, they're all different wavelengths. Some things are more harmful than others. And so it all depends on, you know, what those wavelengths are. Lots of things like the radio, it doesn't even affect the human body, the wavelengths. That is so big that it's, you know, it's not going to influence us. But then we get into tighter and tighter zones, all the way up to gamma radiation, which they use to kill things in the body. And so it, you know, it's, we have a lot going on out there, and there's sort of this endless need for repair.
So I was thinking, so many many companies claim on you know, things which they can do, and they talk about how it can benefit the body, and but the thing is that there's many things which is backed by clinical research and studies. What sort of studies and clinical research has NanoV undergone to, you know, prove its it works, you know, its legitimacy?
There's a lot going on right now, but part that I'm really most excited about was a research group that could show a pretty dramatically positive impact on protein folding, protein recovery. So they intentionally damage them in a variety of ways, which are all oxidative stress, but it could be radiation or heat or chemicals. And then they look at how well they recover if they're treated with a placebo versus an active device, and if they're pre-treated versus post-treated. So it's quite a complex research design in the end, but the results are really dramatic. So that's to me just so exciting, that it could have such a huge impact on the proteins themselves. On humans, it's been studied in a double-blind placebo-controlled research where the person was damaged. So the idea is we want to create oxidative stress, and then we want to see how well they do if they use a placebo device or if they use an active NanoV device. And those studies showed with different measures ranging from 10 to 17% better results. And that was after one session. So that was on a human after just one session. And the way that research was done was on athletes doing an all-out exercise test, where they go to exhaustion and either the doctor stops the test or the athlete stops. And the reason athletes are used is because you can stress them legally. And you can't take your grandmother, with chronic illness and use her as a test. And so athletes, with that, they showed better immune response, faster kicking into repair mode, and dramatically less lactate in the blood when the athlete was pre-treated. So, and then I mentioned the DNA studies as well. Those are very complicated blood testing, smaller studies.
What, they've shown some DNA repair afterwards?
Yes, and that was, yes, one was done through an Olympic training center in Austria. And that ranged from, the averages aren't so meaningful when you have a small sample, but the range was from 16 to 34% improvement in the athletes, a reduction in the double-strand DNA breaks.
Right.
So those are some of them. There's been some others done, and there's some other ones that are very interesting that you'd be more interested in around glutathione and so on.
Okay.
You want to improve that production of glutathione and other kind of antioxidants in the body, and that's not been released yet. But there's some other exciting stuff going on.
So are you saying that with the studies, there is a link to show that this can help glutathione?
I can't
get into that just yet. Okay, no worries.
Yet, but yep. So that the question is that yes, it's the data shows that it's apparent, but at this point it doesn't have that statistical significance that we want to hit those markers. So then we proceed with caution on that data until we have a level of statistical significance.
Oh, wicked. Well, when that does come out, please let me know.
And then the other side of it, just really briefly, I won't get into this. This is completely my partner, Hans Eng. But the device itself is tested. The output, the water is tested. So there's a lot of testing involved in looking at the actual humidity that's coming out, and that it does have this state that's needed, this ordered water where the water molecules are packed together more tightly. So that part is also studied, but that's not so interesting to humans, because we want it to have an effect on us.
Yeah. That's not the sexy information for a lot of people.
Right.
What I wanted to ask is, okay, so it creates this structured vapor, you said, structured water vapor. you can also drink structured water, I'm sure. Why would I not just drink structured water? Wouldn't that do the same thing?
Well, one of the reasons we say ordered water and,
Ordered. Okay.
even is that structured water is like a big category. And we would fall under that because the ordered water is definitely structured. But you can also structure water in lots of other ways, like with additives, like silica is added, and then the water molecules are different. They cluster and so on. And so there's lots of things you can do to water. You can put it in the blender, spin it. You can, but they're all different from what we do.
Yeah.
And they won't have the impact of what our device has. And for some of this research, there's a lot of ongoing research also on the water, like looking at the actual water structure. It's fascinating, but not, again, not the biology side of things. So it does have a short life in what we would call bulk water. Like a glass of water is bulk, and then humidity is just the droplets. And so there is, it can be measured, but it's a short life. So you couldn't take the water from, run our device into a glass of water and then ship it somewhere. It would be like temperature. It would disappear really quickly. But there is some studies that have shown that with a glass of water or bulk water, there is an unmeasurable impact on it.
Interesting.
Yeah, but you have to have your NanoV device right there to make the water, in which case you may as well just breathe the air from the device. Because the other thing is your digestive tract is really different than going in through the mucous membrane and inhalation. They're designed differently, so yeah.
You mentioned a little bit earlier about athletic performance and that you've done some tests, placebo controlled. And does it affect like power athletes and endurance athletes? Does it affect both of them? If so, how?
It's really interesting. And in fact, we have an article I'll get to you at some point written on this, because those two come together at a point. And I can't give you all the science of that, and it would be boring anyway. But I think the easiest explanation is that they may cause damage in different ways, but both those athletes have a higher than normal need for repair. All athletes do, because they're metabolizing more oxygen, and they're doing more with their bodies. They also will have a higher capacity for repair because they're more fit and they're in better health in general usually. But it's so critical for performance to repair quickly, keep everything working well, because otherwise they'll see the decline in performance before long. And there's so many athletes that have recognized, oh man, these guys are all dying early, or they're a wreck. They they can't do stuff at an older age. You don't want that. You got to keep up with the damage.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know whether you've been able to have you been able to compare which athlete has more ROS happening in the body?
That research might be done. We haven't done it. I know that endurance athletes have a real issue there, and when you're doing power lifts or something, those breaks give your body a chance to repair. But when you get into the ultra athletes and so on, they're not giving their bodies any real break. And so I would guess that that's not recommended.
Right.
And they're definitely metabolizing a lot more oxygen. So you also have to have a much higher capacity to repair oxidative damage, or you'll go downhill.
Yeah. I was just curious to see which one the NanoV device would have to work out more on, and just which one creates more damage to themselves, like when they've been overexerting themselves, and which one would need more time to repair using the nano.
Well, you might be interested in Andre Rosso. He did a Deca ultra marathon, which is an ultra marathon, so an Ironman distance,
Right.
and a Deca is 10 days in a row. And it's like, okay, that doesn't seem like a very good idea, but then he used the NanoV every night, and he could definitely tell. He does other extreme events, and so he can tell the difference for sure.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So we got the NanoV over here. See it?
And now it's draped. It's very elegant.
I know,
I like
right?
what you've done.
That's terrible. Oh my God.
I think I'm going to be able to guess who's the interior designer in the family.
Oh man. So yeah, this is it here. I've shown a few people on my Instagram, and they were asking like if it was a fax machine, I don't know, or some sort of medical device. It does look a bit medical orientated. And obviously during the evening time, I'll switch this over to red to get me, get that melatonin kicking in and stuff. Yeah, it's pretty cool though. It's pretty cool. What's like for the future? Do you think you might be, or I don't know, Hans or whoever the people who piece this together, do you think there might be a smaller version to travel with, possibly? I mean, it's a big bit of kit, and I've traveled quite a lot and have thought about, I wish I could bring this along, but it probably takes up quite a lot of space. Now, some people might do that. Yeah. Is there any futures is there any future designs, or is this it?
It's a possibility for the future. It's a very big deal to change it with all the compliance and all of that. So
Right.
It's not on the drawing board right now. We have a lot of professional athletes that do travel with it. But of course they do, but they've got, private jet or whatever,
Right.
And
right.
so, but there's other people that do. It goes as a carry-on, or you can check it as checked luggage, but it's definitely, as you said, a bit of kit to take along. And yeah, I would love it. I would love that. And I have whole sports teams that would have them if they could use it on the plane,
Yeah.
Like, oh man. But it's, I don't know. Right now, we're just trying to keep the cost as low as possible and, kind of get them out there. And that would definitely be the next generation. It'll never be tiny. There's a lot of stuff going on inside there that's not going to be miniaturized.
Maybe there could be, I don't know, a lesser output, just like when you've got the, I don't know, small red light therapy devices. It's kind of the same thing on a smaller level, but at least you can travel with it.
Yeah.
Might have to use it for a longer period of time to get the same results, but it's better than nothing.
Yeah. I wish we did, and it would be a wonderful thing. It's just not a simple thing to do. So we just don't look for it really soon.
Yeah. Okay. So let's say, I don't know, you're a biohacker and you're pretty well equipped with, can you hear me? Looks like it's freezing. Are we connected? Can you hear me all right?
I hear you.
Cool. All right. So I was saying, it's a funny sound coming from the laptop. All right, let me ignore that. All right. So you're a biohacker. You have lots of equipment. You're pretty well equipped in terms of, all the different devices. You have a photo biomodulation device, a molecular hydrogen generator, and PEMF mat, and all that great stuff. And you sleep like a bear. So, your deep sleep is like super high. How would you fit a NanoV between all of this? Like, you pretty much think, you know what, I'll get everything. Or why would I get a NanoV?
Well, it'll make everything better since you've already invested all that money and you just upgrade all those devices. That's brilliant. That's money well spent. And then you do it while you're doing the PEMF or the red light. So it's really common that they're doing it in conjunction with PEMF, and those big pulse centers and those big centers that do PEMF add the NanoV because they get better outcomes, because they're like hand and glove. They complement each other really well.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about young people? Can young people use it? Like, I don't know, children? Is it of a certain age where what's the age limit on that, or minimum?
We've had newborns on it. I mean, we didn't personally, but people did that. Some remarkable cases. A child shouldn't need it, right? But if there's something wrong, then it may be helpful to them. But most children have a lot of cell energy production. They're just really optimized little machines. A lot of mitochondrial function, all those things that as adults we're kind of interested in increasing, they're high in children. So it's only if there's something that's not working well in a child. But we have a lot of people that the children will use it as they settle down in the evening with it or something. And it's just their preference. They like to use it. Now, whether or not it's having a big impact on the kid or not, I don't know. They don't have so much need for repair as we do.
Yeah, I shouldn't think so. Yeah, they just repair super quick. Well, what about older people? Obviously, they'd probably need it, but is there an age where it might be too much for them? Would it be overwhelming for the body? Or?
There's a few. It's not really an age, but there are some age-related issues that can come up if they have a lot of toxicity. Then they need to start slowly because it will help the body do what the body needs to do. And if the body needs to detox, then it can happen too fast and be uncomfortable. And so, yeah, people that are carrying a lot of toxicity just start slower and build up. And then with anybody, that's a good idea to build up, especially somebody that's older or sensitive. Then that's the safe way to do it. But anybody can use it, and we have 102 as our oldest customer.
Oh, really?
Cool? Yeah, her boyfriend helped her buy it because her hearing's not that good, so he called in. I'm like,
oh wow! And how long has she been using it for?
She's on about a year now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see how long she can live for with this. Are you allowed to sleep with it, like up in your nostrils? Would it be all right to sleep with?
That would be off-label.
Okay.
People do it, but it would be an off-label use of it, and it's a way to get a lot more time in, which is why they do it. They can put it on for an hour or two or whatever they want and get extra time.
I mean, you say an hour or two. I thought that was standard. I know that this is supposed to be 15 minutes, but I'm not going to lie. There's times I'm by my laptop and I have that like up my nostrils for about a couple of hours quite easily.
I do the same thing. And it's the powerful device. But yeah, and some people will run it all night. So it's up to them. But when you're sleeping, if people turn over and stuff, it can get in the way, the cannula.
Oh yeah. Is there another thing? What do you call it? Like a nebulizer? Can you attach that to this at all and put it over your face completely, or is it not suitable, or does it not fit properly?
There are masks that could be used, but for us, the masks are usually designed for something like oxygen, so it doesn't matter if there's a valve there. But with our device, it matters because that valve will interrupt the water droplets, and we don't want anything interfering with those droplets. So it really depends on the design of the mask.
Okay. What about people who want to lose weight? Would this work at all? Or it's like, nah, this ain't for you, just stop eating so much crap.
I've got so many testimonials of people that just, they shed their weight and it's like amazing. But from a weight loss perspective, it's really helping something else in the body that's a little off. It could be toxicity. If you carry toxicity, you need the fat to store it. If you get rid of the toxicity, then the fat can let go. But while you've got toxicity, that fat may be protecting you. And so there's things like that, or just a lot of it is hormonal. And one thing that's always the case is you give the body a chance to regenerate and repair, and it will come back into balance. And that can be hormone balance. It's easy to measure. It's easy to measure that. And so if your weight is because things are a little off, then it definitely is going to help those people come back into balance. And then it's much, you know, the weight may just shed itself, or it's much easier to lose weight.
So there hasn't been any links with the studies that it helps with hormonal balance at all?
Those have not been studied. That's not been studied. Where, I don't know if I should say, one place that people measure it really easily is with the hormone called insulin.
Right.
And I would say also that our company has a long history of helping people with chronic disorders. And so that's really the origin of the company, was chronic disorders. And then in the last 5 years or so, it's been more people wanting wellness, healthy aging, and athletes have really, it's really been a shift almost of people recognizing this, you know, you don't have to have a disease to benefit from faster repair and regeneration.
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, as one of the reasons why I kind of stumbled onto the whole biohacking thing, and even the NanoV itself, it's like, I'm not trying to wait to be sick. Like, I want to feel amazing. I want to wake up and feel amazing. And it's been so long since I've been sick. I think the only thing that sometimes gets me is the hay fever. Like, you know, I'll just get the sniffles and that. But other than that, man, I feel superhuman a lot of the time. I use this every day.
I think a lot of us would say you are kind of superhuman. If you don't mind.
Oh, thank you.
I use it every day too. The very same thing. And you have a better situation in the UK, but here you just don't want to be. You can't afford to be sick. I mean, even wealthy people can't afford to be really sick very often in the US. It's not a good situation. And so I think a huge number of people are looking at it and saying, wait a minute, I need to prevent, you know, being old and sick. That's not a good thing.
Yeah.
And so it's.
I know that they say you can't out-train a bad diet, but let's say, you know, you're talking about US, you can't afford to be sick. And I was just thinking about the diet there in the US. It's atrocious.
Not all of us.
not all. Yeah, I understand that. Yeah. But, you know, I'm just here. I remember the first time I visited the US, and I went into the supermarket and I wanted to buy some food, and there was just so many synthetic ingredients when I was checking the ingredients on the back of lots of labels. And I was like, but they sell this in UK and I don't recognize these ingredients from UK. And then, you know, later on, I started to learn that it's pretty typical. Like in the US, they sometimes add some extra flavorings and colors and that sort of thing. So let's say you can't escape from a terrible diet or these synthetic stuff, but you have a NanoV. Can that help?
Well, one thing is, the biggest thing that a bad diet creates, in my humble opinion, is inflammation. A lot of these things are inflammatory, all the chemicals, the bad fats, fracked oils and fats. And I think maybe also, I don't know about the sugars, but we have a loaded diet for sugars here in the US. And so definitely inflammation it's a natural process that you need if you're trying to heal a wound or something, but chronic inflammation is a huge a huge way to degrade health, and it underlies a lot of really serious conditions. And so the keeping the inflammation in check, repair, regeneration is absolutely huge. And so it's not really directly diet related, but it's going to help the body cope with whatever you throw at it, and ideally don't.
Yeah, of course, right? Yeah. It's, sometimes I think to myself, there's days when I just want to eat, I'm just going to be straight, I just want to eat some shit food. I just want to eat something that is going to make me smile temporarily and then make me crash afterwards. But I just want to get that happy feeling from some crap food. It could be a pizza, or it could be a cake or some ice cream. I know it's going to cause some problems down the line, but I just want that moment of happiness. And I always think to myself, all right, what is my mitigation measures? Like, what am I going to do to try to deflect some of the damage which is happening here on some of the garbage food that I'm eating? And yeah, NanoV is one of the things I reach from. Like, okay, I had some crap. All right, let me have maybe some activated charcoal, or I don't know, maybe some chlorella or something like that. Some kind of binder. But yeah, like that's the reason why I wanted to ask you. Really, like, would this kind of help to reduce any kind of damage?
Well, some things, like if you eat a piece of cake, I don't see those as being, as long as they're not often or lots or whatever. I think those are things, that aren't going to have a big long-term impact. But like if you eat a piece of cake, I mean, that sounds really good occasionally, somebody's birthday, and then if you just go for a walk afterwards, just move a bit, because you've got a bunch of sugars, you can burn those off really quickly. So that's more effective than NanoV for the cake. The other things, the chemicals, the whatever might be in whatever, then it's going to help support the body to sort of deal with those things.
Right. Cool.
I think you have such a good diet, and you're paying so much attention,
Yeah, and that's my main focus. Like, I always think to myself when I'm shopping, I visualize what is going to be on my plate, how colorful it's going to be, and different spectrum of minerals and vitamins. And if certain things are going to be harder to digest, I think, all right, what digestive enzymes do I have? Yeah, or if I'm gonna get cake, then I'll be like, all right, I need to get a certain enzyme to digest that quickly. And even if I have like just a lot of garbage, if I know I'm gonna eat, like, it's gonna be a toxic day, then I'll even have something to help with. There's a cleanse. Let me see. Have I got it in here?
Oh dear. Okay, you're way out of my realm. I'll just help fix the damage after it occurs.
Yeah. Oh, it's not in here. But yeah, I normally have something which is like a cleanse, because I'll think to myself, all right, I don't know whether I've got any parasites in me now after eating that. I know it's crazy.
Okay, I want to talk about one more topic, okay?
Yeah.
Because it's sort of that mood, or how stressed and so on, which you can create stress around things like diet and exercise and so on, right? And that is an area where the NanoV can help with that, where it's another thing that's been studied and shown to balance the autonomic nervous system. For most of us, that means come out of fight or flight, go into rest and digest and calm down.
Yeah.
And I think that's why some kids like to use it at night, for example. But that's a rebalancing of the body. Again, the body comes back into balance. It comes out of the stress mode. And that is really, really important and really helpful. And so, first of all, don't get too stressed.
No, I don't get stressed about it, but I just feel like I just want to signify health. I want everything about me to be health,
Well, I think you seem very smart about it, actually. And it makes me feel like, oh, I mean, I'm good at some things, but maybe I shouldn't you know, have that cauliflower crust pizza.
What else am I going to say? So I spoke about the young people, the old people. What other benefits would you say are good about the NanoV? Do you think there's anything else worth adding?
No, I
Actually,
think
you did touch up on the the idea behind it was mainly to help like maybe critically ill or people like with diseases or sicknesses. Is that right?
well, yeah, all the chronic disorders
Right, right.
are a matter of too much damage and not enough repair.
Okay.
And so that was our early market, was every one of those. We have over 50 chronic diseases that I made a list of that our device has been used for.
Mm,
And so but that's just like, if you go down that path where you're not keeping up, you're not, you know, preventing the damage and repairing damage as you go, that chronic disorder is sort of what's lurking at the other end.
mm, yeah.
So it's, you know, they're also called age-related diseases for a reason. It's like it builds up over a long time and then it manifests as an age-related or chronic disease. And
Yeah.
so that's what we want to avoid.
Yeah, yeah. But it's almost like those things, it might be abbreviated as an age-related disease when it's probably just an accumulation of lots of bad stuff a lot of the time.
Mhm.
There is it a doctor or a scientist, something Sinclair? I'm sure you've probably heard of him. Is it David Sinclair? Some Sinclair, who's like oh man, where's that book? I got an audio book. Something Sinclair. Thought you might have known. He is he specializes in anti-aging, and I think he believes that we don't actually need to age, but there's no logical reason as to why we have to age. So he believes that if we switch off certain things, which is causing inflammation and these degenerative diseases and all these things, which is kind of speeding up the clock of aging, if we was to know how to deal with all of that, then we don't have to age.
Well, I mean, I kind of, I've never seen that, but I sort of agree in that the body is like powerfully regenerative, and there's this big turnover in cells. And so it can rebuild itself. And the fundamental structure with the DNA is the blueprint, the RNA, the blueprint for proteins. That's what your DNA is. It's the blueprint for the proteins. RNA makes it, it's transcribed and so on into these individual proteins. But all of that machinery, pieces can get swapped out. There's replacement parts. The proteins can build, they can identify, oh, that's broken, switch it out, junk that piece, or recycle it reuse the amino acids. And the body does all those things. And if it's really badly damaged, it's like, autophagy, kill the cell, get it out of there, and or reuse the parts, the recycling center. And so when you look at how all of that works, it seems like it could be a perpetual machine.
Yeah.
But then there's so many things that interfere and create that damage so that it gums up the works. And that basically how gunked up that is our longevity.
Yeah.
You
You mentioned autophagy. Would you say that intermittent fasting would complement this, or vice versa?
It definitely, with the NanoV, any of those practices, in addition to devices that we have, right? But the practices as well, the same follows, that it is supporting the body itself. And if you're doing fasting, intermittent fasting, cold showers, those kinds of things, then absolutely it's just going to support the overall body. But those things are, it's not going to be like a big difference that that you would notice if you're doing intermittent fasting and then you stop using the NanoV, you're probably not going to notice a decline in your intermittent fasting.
Right.
You might notice that it takes you more time to recover after you've worked out.
Right.
That's very likely that you would notice that because you're tuned in and you know how long it normally takes. And so for any athlete, it's really easy to see that impact. But with fasting, that might be a little harder. There's so many different factors that come into play. You might not notice it.
I'm just wondering whether it will kill the hunger, like, you know.
Oh, no, I don't think so.
Stronger, like, no.
I don't think so. But you'll go long. You'll break fast at like 4 p.m, right?
Normally, yeah, at 4 o'clock. That's right.
And so that's a long fast, unless you're up eating at midnight or something. But I'm assuming not.
No. I normally try and shut it off by about 7. Sometimes it goes to 8, but between 7 and 8.
So you're a much longer intermittent fast than most of us.
Okay.
Like most of us are 16, 18 hours. But why are we not surprised?
Yeah, I'm always trying to push the boundaries, you know.
You're an overachiever.
It's weird. Like, I'm always thinking to myself, okay, how can I make this harder? Like, what is possible? I'm always thinking about that. Not just to put myself in pain, but I'm thinking, you know, what is achievable? What else has been done? This can't be the hardest, you know? So that's how I've always been in terms of fitness, you know, trying to push the boundaries. So you've got 3 different NanoV devices. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So they're very different in terms of pricing.
Yes.
Would you be able to like walk me through it, the different ones, and maybe we can cover the price with that? How does that sound?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. The least powerful one is the one that it's the equivalent would be a 1-hour session, whereas the one you have is a 15-minute session. And that's really the big difference is how powerful they are. The 1-hour session, if you tried to use it the equivalent of what you and I used it in a day, it would be really hard to get that many hours in.
Right.
And so that one in price is a little over $5,000 is where it comes in on the price.
Right.
And then the next size is in between. It's a great device. The smallest device, it works great if that's the one that you can best afford.
Yeah.
If possible, try to get the middle one because that it's twice as powerful and it makes a difference.
Wow.
It's kind of noticeable and in some cases the Pro gets the job done and the Eco doesn't, just because the person can't get over some threshold or something. And so for almost everybody, it's only a matter of time, but for some people, they just really need a more powerful device if they're really challenged.
Right. So what sort of person would you say? People who's got chronic illness, or like older people, sports professionals, those kind of people?
All the sports professionals get the EXO device, which is the one you have.
Right.
Because like you, it's like, well, I don't just do 15 minutes, I still do an hour, but I want that high output for the hour.
Yeah.
And so then the Pro device, a lot of home users will get that. I'm surprised at how many home users get the most powerful device. Sometimes it amazes me, you know.
Wow. Okay.
And just so you know, the most expensive one is a little less than $14,000. So it's a high 13,000s.
Okay.
And the middle one, that's why it's like, wow, people buy that in the shopping cart for home use, you know. Really?
All right.
Anyway, and then there's the middle one, and it's about $8,500 is the cost, and it's a half-hour typical session, or the equivalent session is a half hour, and that one's called a Pro device.
Pro device. All right. So the first one is called what?
The Eco, ECO.
ECO. And why is it called that? What, eco-friendly kind of?
Economical, smaller,
Okay.
Eco. And then Pro used to be our biggest device.
Right.
And then we had a person with a traumatic brain injury who said, I'll pay you the money to make a more powerful device. I need something more powerful.
Wow.
And so he did, and then we thought, well, we should sell this device. And then we ultimately put it on the market. And it's, last year, it was the device we sold the most.
Amazing.
It is. I found that quite remarkable because we were like, oh, well, we may as well offer it. And so that was, yeah, that's the story. But so the Pro used to be, eco and professional models were the two, but then the Pro became a middle child.
Amazing. Wow. So that might not fit a lot of people's budget. You're going to have certain types of people that will probably just buy it straight away. Are there any financial, I don't know, like, like when you get a hire purchase agreement, is there like a finance agreement things that you guys do at all?
There is in the US, the equipment can be leased.
Okay.
And so we do what we can to, if it's like splitting the payment or something, we'll do what we can.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is, which we'd really like to see, is that they're in every corner, in every gym, in every, in centers where people could access them. And there's quite a lot of them out there in the US where you can go and use a device at a clinician's office, at a center of some type. Where we don't have a lot is where they're really public access, like in gyms, which would be nice to have, because if it were even part of your gym membership or something, and you go to the gym several times a week, that would be a nice way to go. And we really want to get them into companies, because many people could share one device in a company. And it's really in everybody's interest, the employee and the employer, to stay healthy and feeling good and sharp, because mental clarity is a big factor. I just talked to Jim Quick on Friday. He's such a nice guy. And
What, did you say you spoke to him?
Yeah, I was speaking to him Friday, and I almost don't want to hang up the phone. He's such a terrific person. And another plug for his book, Limitless. It's a fantastic book on mental performance.
I've got it as well. Where is it? Well, it's not in here. I do have the book.
Yeah, and so anyway, for mental performance, it's a great thing. So in a company, it makes perfect sense. These guys are, hungover or jet lagged or both, or and to stay sharp, feeling good. That's a productivity issue.
Yeah.
Someday we want to be in every company if people are actually in companies again.
Yeah, I know, right? Hopefully at some point soon. I was in a car park earlier today, and I saw lots of spaces taken up. Like all the cars were in parking spaces. I was like, wow, the town is busy, which is cool. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
We're not like that yet here in Seattle.
Right. Okay. I don't know much about Seattle, but I'll assume it's.
Well, the U.S. has not done the best job of keeping everybody safe. I would say it's safe to say. I hope that's not too political, but.
Yeah. So, where can people find information about ENG3 Corp and the NanoV devices? More technical stuff. If they wanted to read up on it as well, where could they find?
You got it. eng3corp.com. eng3corp.com is the best URL. And then maybe, do you have something you can post or put in your show notes with a link?
Yeah, I can put something in the show notes. Absolutely.
Yeah, so we'll have that. So it'll link to a page that's more directly related to biohackers and the kind of audience you have. So that they've got a video that shows what's really going on and how the proteins are folding and stuff.
Yes.
If people want it. Who could resist?
Definitely. That's awesome. That's awesome. And you guys have got an Instagram page as well, right?
Yes.
And what is that? ENG3 Corp. Yeah.
Am I supposed to know
Instagram.com/ENG3 Corp or ENG3 or NanoV. I can't remember, to be honest.
ENG3CORP. I knew that.
Yeah.
Corp. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'll put those in the notes anyway. Yeah.
Okay, that sounds great. And
Awesome.
we'll go from there. And just anybody call anytime. Happy to answer questions, get information out. If you log in at a form on our site, you only get good information like study results. We don't spam people. We don't send just marketing stuff out. We only send something that's meaningful.
That's great. That's
Yeah.
great. You know, because there's some companies that you subscribe and they just bombard you, and it's like, oh man, it was so good at the beginning, but now it's not going to work.
I know, and you go through your spam filter and it's like, man, I got 40 emails in 2 days or something. It's like,
Yeah.
that's just not a good idea.
Yeah.
We're like, we do, every month or two probably, but it's always when it's newsworthy.
Yeah.
Like this podcast, for example.
Exactly. Are you guys going to be at the Health Optimization Summit this year, if it
Is it gonna
happens?
happen? No, sorry. I
Oh,
should maybe,
really?
well, I don't, when's it supposed to be, September?
I believe so. Yeah, September, around the 15th, probably. I can't
Oh,
remember
so
the
it's
date.
still on. That's good. That's great.
Yeah, yeah. So far, like that's the plan. You know, there's been a lot of posts on social media about it, to talk about it, to say who the speakers are going to be. So they feel strongly it's definitely happening.
Oh, that's good. I hope it works out. I mean, Tim did such a great job last year to bring everybody together to make the whole thing happen. Once you've done all that, the second year, it's supposed to be easier, and then it sort of, got harder, I think.
Yeah, no doubt. Oh.
So
So where are you guys going to be next? You're not going to be at this summit. Are you going to be at any other kind of biohacking clinic?
the bulletproof one, but now it's moved to next year. So, and I'm speaking at that one. And then we don't have others for this year. I didn't sign up on any of them.
Okay.
Yeah, we were kind of thinking it wouldn't be the best approach. I might attend, but we wouldn't be exhibiting.
Right.
So it's really the biohacking one at labs, upgrade labs. And then also on our site, there is a locator if people want to find a place to go try it out.
Okay.
It might be possible to find it in their neighborhood, especially if they're in the US. If you're in the UK, it's not going to work.
No,
Sorry.
no. We don't have any like practitioners that are kind of waving the flag of NanoV over here, I'm assuming, right?
You.
Oh, there's just me. Yeah. So yeah.
No, we really haven't got things rolling in England or the UK.
Yeah.
Sorry. Does it offend you if I say England?
No, no, not at all. No.
Okay,
Many of
good.
my friends say England. I just say UK.
Yeah, okay, good.
It's all
If you were in Scotland, I might be in trouble, but it's okay.
all right, sweet. Well, look, it's been absolutely fantastic. I've learned so much, and I think a lot of people have learned a lot about the NanoV. So, yeah, thank you very much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
It's so good to see you. Hello and goodbye, and thanks for having me on here.